Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. I'm very pleased to be with Joe Rojas of Start, Grow, Manage. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about the end game. And actually, you were part of that yourself. You actually have
Yes.
been part of a merger and acquisition.
I've had 3 different exits, so yeah.
So that's what you call it, an exit.
Yeah,
So let me start with the most obvious question.
sure.
How do you kind of know, just for yourself, it's a personal question, hey, it's time for me to exit?
Well, it's interesting because I can answer that question 3 different ways because I've done it 3 times for 3 different reasons, right? So the first time that I exited was really because the kind of client that I was working with, I wanted to work with a different type of client. So because I wanted to work with a different type of client, I took my first exit. And my first exit was my hardest one because you're a baby. You know,
Right.
you built it from scratch and you're doing all that stuff. So that's really, I focused on that and said, okay, now it's time to go, right? So in my second exit, it was really an opportunity. Like somebody walked up to me and said, hey, I looked at all that hard work that you did and it looks like the business is going and you don't really need to be in it. Do you think you could sell it to me? And I was like, I wonder if I could do this a third time. So I got a nice price. I got out and I started again, right? But now I started with more money than I did in my first exit. And then my third exit is really because I wanted to do what I'm doing now. And so that's 3 different reasons.
So in the interest of clarity, you've got the word Fornix right behind you, literally. NTR working together on this merger news project. What's your connection with Fornix?
So Fornix is a partner of ours, and we work together with the same types of clients, and,
Right.
and really to help them grow, help them get to that next level.
So let's connect the dots. When it's time to exit, first of all, can you just go off and do it on your own?
I don't recommend it. I always recommend that you work with somebody when you're going to do an exit. And as a matter of fact, as part of the trusted advisors and as part of working with Fornix, they have a great set of partners to help you do those kinds of things to help you exit. So definitely having a conversation with Fornix and looking at who are the partners that they use, that's a great way to look at that. Yeah.
Now, you guys come in a lot earlier in the process.
We do.
Because you were telling me about product versus service. Now, in my little head, and I bet a lot of our readers think a product is something I put in a piece of cardboard, and a service is like a cloud-based service that I pay a fee for. But I think you mean it differently.
I mean it differently. A lot of people really think that, oh, well, if I'm an MSP, I sell services. You don't, right? If you don't, you have to take the time to productize your service. If you don't productize your service, it's just lazy, right? And no, I don't mean to insult anybody out there, right? I don't mean to but it's really, you do have to take the time to productize what it is that you do so that you are not part of the package. Because if you're delivering services not as a product, then you as the MSP, the person, you're part of that package, and that's what they're buying. And you don't want them to buy that. You want them to buy the results that they get from working with you, not the fact that they're working with you.
So, and that's a huge difference.
Yes.
And you're saying to me, if I don't make that departure or that distinction,
Yes.
I'm not going to be really able to sell much, right?
Well, you'll be able to sell, but it's great. We had Mahen Gundencha came and did a talk for our MSPs, and when he did that, one of the things that he talked about is he did 2 case studies, 2 separate MSPs, both at $3 million in revenue, right? Mm-hmm. They're both doing the same money, but one sold at 16x more than the other one. And the one that sold at 16x more had a few things in place. One, they had contracts with their clients. Two, they were narrow to a single vertical, right? So they knew the problem they solved, and they knew exactly who they solved that problem for, and then they productized the delivery of that process to that ideal client in a way that the company was like a machine, right? You could hire lower end technicians because everything is documented and all they have to do is follow the process. As long as you have a process that people can follow, right? Then you productize your services in a way that anybody can come in and train somebody in that process and they can deliver the product.
Now, the other part of your formula is vertical concentration. Am I right?
Yeah. And that's really what helped me exit, right? So in my last exit, I was really focused on ophthalmologists. And we understood everything that there was about ophthalmologists. We understood all the 27 different pieces of equipment that they use to check the eyes. We work with laser surgery centers. So we understood how the laser surgery center integrates it, how the laser machine integrates into their EHR, how all of the optics integrate into the EHR, what it is that they're trying to do, and how to move patients faster through the practice. Because that's really what you're helping them do, is deliver better patient care, right? And so then you're really thinking about patient care rather than thinking about technology problems.
That's interesting. And going back to knowing the 27 instruments, you know their business. You know them. You know, and you're not making rookie mistakes and stuff like that.
Which is what had us be so good at what we did, right? So I had sales engineers that really understood the ophthalmologist and optometry kind of space, so they could come in and advise on a whole bunch of different things, right? And so that's really what differentiates you and lets you exit at a higher multiple.
Right.
It's really understanding the problem you solve for your ideal client.
And it sounds like it's so reputational that all the ophthalmologists go, these are the guys you got to turn to when they're talking to each other. And then you get into their market and you're talking to people.
100%. 100%. And you're going to their conferences. It makes it easier to sell. It makes it easier for people to find you. It makes it easier to exit because you have a product.
So it sounds like we have vertical discipline, we have productizing the service. Is there anything else that you can suggest to our listeners on the journey to, finally
know your
business?
numbers?
Know your numbers.
You have to know your numbers. You have to know your numbers and really understand, not just your profitability, but a lifetime value of your client, right? Really know what that lifetime value is. And the deeper you go, the narrower and deeper you go, the longer the LTV for the client. Clients will never leave who you're solving a problem for, right? Who you're helping them run their business better, they're never going anywhere.
I'm tempted to ask you the same question I just asked another podcast we just did today. I call it the out of breath question, which is, you're running a business and that's gobbling up a lot of time. How do you find time to do these extra things to get exit prepared?
Well, it's interesting because, and I hate saying this, but it's all part of the same thing, right? Is the reason why we're so busy most of the time as entrepreneurs, right? Especially as MSPs. So I remember when I was an MSP and I wasn't vertical focused, I was always running. I was like, I was trying to learn this new thing and learn that new thing and learn this new compliance framework and learn that new compliance framework. So how you find the time is you focus. You focus on one thing. And when you focus on one thing, there's less distraction because once you know that thing,
right,
then you don't have to learn that again. You don't have to learn how to onboard it. And you can delegate. Right? But you can't delegate if every new client you get means a new process that you have to start, a new compliance framework, a new this, a new certification, a new tool that you have to add, a new, that is always going to keep you running.
So being deep inside of a vertical also saves you money, makes you
Time.
more productive. And so on.
Yeah.
And is that basically part of your story?
That is basically part of my story. That's how I was able to exit 3 times. That's how I was able to. That's why we ended up here, doing what we do.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been very interesting. Where can we learn more about what you guys do?
You can go to startgrowmanage.com, and that's actually the best way to find us. And I'm easy. I'm Joe at startgrowmanage.com.
Joe, again, thank you very much indeed for joining me today.
All right. Thanks.